Hello and welcome to another show of the Paradigm Shift here in KGEM. My name is Nick Zigich, and with me today is
Huesan Tran.
And Huesan and me are running this show according to schedule. So Huesan,
Yep.
I just wanted to let people know who you are.
All right.
And you are the author of a book that is coming out, Financial Healing for the New Economy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're interested in the book, you can go and look it up on the web. And the web page is financialhealingbook.com. Huesan is also a speaker and a lot of the designations, a CCIM and an expert that has a doctorate. And we're going to cover a lot of things on these shows and try to bring you a lot of values that have to do with the paradigm shift.
Yes. I think before we get into the content of the show, I think a lot of you probably are wondering who we are. So I thought I will give you a little bit background about Nick, our producer and my co-host.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nick has over 20 years of experience starting, managing, and selling businesses. He is a very, important figure because he is the president of many associations in the real estate industry, and he also is a speaker and a mentor and an instructor. He is good enough to teach a lot of business broker, right?
Thank you. Well, I enjoy doing that.
All right, very good. And Nick and I met each other through, I guess, the real estate and the real estate field.
Yes.
And because we're both speakers, we share a lot of vision together about what's happening in the world right now. There's a lot of changes happening, and people are kind of confused about the collapse, the crisis, whatever.
Yeah.
And they are looking for solutions. So Nick and I had this concept about doing the show since over a year ago.
Yes.
And we finally now put it together, and I'm excited.
And I'm excited too.
Yeah.
The thing that intrigued me most about the everyday life that I do is there's so much changes in the market, and a lot of people, even politics, are reactionary here. Once things happen, then we figure out how to make it hurt the least. But we don't think of what would we do to prevent it from happening, or at least how for it not to affect us at the crash of the real estate market that we had a couple of years back. So the idea that came along was to bring a show that can look in the future,
Right.
that can be thinking out of the box, and if we can focus on some future, bring the values on how it's going to affect the world, the local markets.
Yeah, I think it's very important because I have a background as a management consultant myself. And so I think it's very important at this point that whatever topic that we talked about, not only we talk about what's the root of the problem, we are visionary. Let's say we look many years ahead to see where it's going.
Yep.
So we try to cover actually pretty full spectrum, from visionary to strategic to tactical, what they can do in their daily life to change, adapt their business, maybe reinvent the business so they can come out ahead and kind of navigate through all these turbulences and thrive in the new world.
Absolutely. And one of the things we're going to bring today on our 600th show.
Actually, this is our grand opening. It's our first show.
This is the historical first show.
Right.
So
yeah, the title, the paradigm shift, has to do with changing the mindset. Because if people don't change the mindset, you can do all kinds of things that may not be doing the right thing. So Nick has a favorite term. You always say, think out of the box.
Yeah,
right.
Thinking out of the box is the key. And one of the things that we want to address here is the process of not being aligned with the mainstream media or the main thought process. Let's try and bring in guests that can talk about all the possibilities. So we're not blocked inside the box.
That's true. And that's why we also set up a website for audience input. to tell us what you want to know, and because we want this to be very practical.
Absolutely,
right?
and that'll bring value when you bring when you send us your messages and
Yes.
requests and threatening letters.
Should I give them the website now?
Yes, please.
Okay. The website is www.paradigmshifttv.com, and we have an email address, wecare@paradigmshifttv.com. And by the way, Nick's website is myrealestatehq.com. So I think with that, I think we should go into the topic.
Yes, please. Why don't you open the topic up for us today?
Today's topic is conscious business in today's world, much needed paradigm shift. We're very honored to have a live guest speaker with us today.
Absolutely.
In our studio.
And an expert.
Expert, yes, an authority.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me give a little bit introduction about June Davidson, which is our special guest today to help us kick off the show. June is the president of American Seminar Leaders Association. She had many years of experience training small business owner, professional, and executives about speaking and seminar, and also corporate training. She has won many awards, including the Women's Award, Women of the Year for 2010, and also she has the award as the President's Highest Service Award from both President Bush and President Obama.
Wow.
Right, yes. She has a quote which I think is really fitting the theme about so. She said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much."
So true, huh?
Yeah, and she's here today to live this quote. And by the way, before I introduce the guest formally, she has a similar background as you, as a business broker.
All right.
Actually,
Yeah,
real estate broker, and she had operate and run business. I think 5 offices, and she ended up training a lot of real estate professionals like you.
So with that, let me first give the topic of this show, the name and the title, Conscious Business in Today's World.
Yeah.
Conscious Capitalism.
Right.
Go ahead.
So let's welcome Ms. June Davidson. June, I'm so
June.
happy to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here because it's a wonderful topic that you've chosen for your kickoff show.
All right. Now, why don't we start from letting the audience know, what do you mean by conscious business?
Conscious business is actually how you do business with value, with integrity, and it involves everybody. It doesn't just involve the employees, it involves the shareholders, it involves the consumer. Is your product or service of quality to the consumer? And you do it consciously. The spiritual movement started a long time ago, and it started with the individual. And what has happened, it shifted and is now labeled, so to speak, the consciousness of business. But it truly is the spirit of the business. Each business will create a culture and a spirit. And in order for it to be successful, if it doesn't have all of this going, then it is not going to be successful in today's world. So the trend is toward conscious business.
Now, by conscious business, I think also imply that there's social responsibility involved for the business to sustain.
Absolutely, absolutely. Social, again, back to the employees. Are you taking care of your employees? And also, is the employee really giving the service to the company? From little business, from even an entrepreneur.
Right.
What service are they giving to the end user? What product are they doing? Is it quality? Are they doing it? And the consciousness, actually the meaning of consciousness overall is to do no harm.
Right.
So if we go through life shifting from so much of the negative things that we have gone through in the past decade, which we have, we're attempting to build a positive world situation where we go back to doing business. As you said earlier, there were no contracts when your father did business.
That's true.
It was his word and the
The
other
word is the
people's word.
contract.
That's
Yes.
right. But today we have stacks of papers that is contract in the real estate in the business world.
That's true. I think it's going back to the core value, basically. That's what it means.
Oh yeah, the contracts in general are made for the purpose only of defaulting on the basic promise.
Right.
There's nothing in the contract that says you'll deliver something. It says you will be reprimanded if you don't.
That's right. That's right. Punished. Yes.
Nick and I are both in international real estate, and from talking to people from around the world, we find that there's actually more attorney in this country than any other country.
Oh, you're right. I worked for Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. That's another thing. And California is the biggest one for lawsuit abuse. So we had a nonprofit bringing, in other words, get value to what you're doing instead of litigation. You're finding a shift talking about that. You just opened up this. You're finding now the attorneys really that have consciousness are becoming mediators.
Okay.
And they are saying, look, if you take this in, this is what's going to happen. Not thinking about the tons of money they'll make if they keep you going in the litigation, but what can we do to solve it? So there are a lot of attorneys today that do have wonderful spirits, and they're coming forward and becoming mediators.
I think in any industry there's always a good example and not so good examples.
That's right.
And so what's going on right now, with all the change, the turbulence and everything, is that there's a lot of CEO or business owner they kind of look upon as somebody negative because it's associated with these energy that was going on, all these scandal, collapse or whatever. And so as a small business owner or mid-sized business owner, what can they do to set their business apart so they are well perceived in the community?
The value and the social responsibility that they have. Again, the product or the service. Go beyond what it is. You see, where you have a business, both of you operate a lot by yourself. What extra service could you give to somebody that would make that more value to them in the business opportunity world?
Right.
Actually research your area. Would this business be successful in this particular area? What is the situation? How will it fit with the community?
How do you see it with the globalization of the market and the trends to localize again and bring jobs into communities and so on? Where does that fit in?
More and more the small business is growing. And they are giving the business, and the big businesses contracting back. There's a lot of contracts going on right now for small business. It's rapidly growing, and of course, as you know, women are opening up businesses unbelievable. So what's going to happen, they're going to form a community of maybe specialized services. And if the specialized service is needed in a certain part of the world today, you can link up and give them that service.
Absolutely.
So it's not the same as we used to be. There is what I think is wonderful is there's honesty now taking place through the internet.
Yeah, things are much more transparent now.
They have to be successful. They have to be, because if you're going to do a cover-up, look at the scandals we've had, the Enron, and you see the big cover-up, it started from the top. It was not good.
With
it
just
was
so many
wrong.
hierarchy and
And they're a big cover-up and no transparency. They actually involved the accounting company for them to falsify the records so they could get more money and more money. So when it went down, it was all the way, but the corruptness had started at the top.
That's true. So I think you just mentioned something very good. I think for the internet, the globalization, everything has changed and opened up so much opportunity for a small business because they could be so transparent about who they are.
Yes.
And they could be local, yet utilize the internet to open up to the world. And if they are a conscious company, they provide good service, good value, they can expand their customer base pretty much globally now.
Absolutely. And by doing that, what they're doing is the transparencies. If somebody has a bad experience with you and you've not serviced them and you've not done what you can say, they're going to tell the internet, and the internet, the other one tells somebody else and tells somebody else.
Right.
They're going to also praise you when you do a good job. People want, there's tremendous kindness and gratitude, and your supporters will be there to support you. Always, there may be reason, and somebody is taking the wrong opinion about it, but the other people that will support you, they'll come forward and do that.
So I think from what you just said here, a conscious company or conscious business will be well supported, not just by the local community, but on the internet community. So they could be having customers from all over.
Absolutely.
From out of state, out of country.
And what we have, not only through the internet, but through the fact that we can now video conference. The first one I saw was a long time ago where the meeting planners, we were in a Sheraton hotel, and the screen, we had our people at the front, and the people in Japan were in another Sheraton, and it was all connected. So we actually, in just very minutes of time, listen and put things together and plan. So this is what's happening, that we can do business globally. It's there. All you need to do is just be prepared and reach out for it.
I think question was come up before when I talked to some friends that there's a lot of good people who try to serve, but then they may not make so much money. Or those who make a lot of money, they may not have as much integrity. But what you're saying is actually totally the opposite. The more integrity, the more core value that they have, the more they serve people, the more business they will generate.
Right, because people talk.
So it's possible to have both
Yes.
the profit and to develop a conscious business.
Absolutely. And look at the businesses today, and I especially want to talk about Apple. He started as a small business, and May the 28th, 2010, the unforgettable happened. Apple went to the #1 company in the United States, bypassing Microsoft. And it was the culture Steve built. You read the history of it, and he was tossed out of the company. The company was going down. And what did they do? See, he had built a people company. And you even see it in the culture of the blue jeans and the black turtleneck shirts, but you see happiness when you see the people. He starts his business spiritually every morning over the system within the company.
I think what you just mentioned here is a paradigm shift. So size doesn't matter.
Size does not matter.
Right. So actually small business may have even more advantage than large size business because they are more adaptive. They can change.
Yes. And do you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
The people out there will invest in you. So if you do want to expand, because they invest in you because of who and what you are. That
So there's
stands
more
loud and
of
clear.
that personal relationship then.
Absolutely. You may do business with a company, but you're doing business with the person inside that company that serves you, that goes beyond the duty of what it is that makes a connection. And it's more so with the big companies. I have to laugh at this, and it was on Sunday morning, and I'm sitting there sort of listening and not listening until the customer service thing comes up. And Comcast was one of the worst of all, and this is what they were talking about. Even one of the employees had to hold on the line at Comcast for over an hour to get into his company. So this lady walks in, a senior citizen, shall we say, and she's out in the lobby area waiting to talk to the manager to get something done about her Comcast system. Well, she kept going up to the desk, and the lady said, well, he's busy, you're next, and kept giving her excuses. So she finally went up, and they had shifted the people and at the desk, but the other lady was sitting over the side. My goodness, he left over an hour ago. He's not even here. So it was a different story every time. I think she came prepared because she got out her hammer and she leaned over and broke the computer system. She had all of that stuff she could take. She's known as the hammer lady. So you see, today, if you really don't like it, what are they going to do? You know, you've got to speak up.
I see.
You can't just walk out and say, well, I'm going to put up with this, and you do speak up. People are encouraged to speak up. So that's the hammer lady. She didn't get the kind of service she could have. You know what that does to Comcast? They either straighten up or they're out of business.
I think what you just said here, kind of, an idea come to my mind, is that with a lot of things happening, all these big corporations, a lot of scandal collapsing, it's actually creating more opportunity for small business.
Yes.
Because it's more, how should I say, accessible and people can relate to. There's a relationship there. And so the paradigm shift here is that they should capture this opportunity using the internet or whatever to create these customer interaction or interface or whatever to create advantage for them.
And you see what's also happening, Huesan, is that the corporations are outsourcing things. They started outsourcing the trend, actually the mega trends, which this is the book that Patricia Albertine, every 10 years there's a mega trend happening. So her studies went through just what you're talking about. So when they see all of the things start to collapsing, what is the trend? And the trend is going into consciousness. Do no harm. So therefore, you're going to see a lot of the companies contracting with smaller businesses. They're closer to the end source, and this has begun to happen. And the trend is back. What is the spirit of your business? Which has a spirituality. It has its own culture. And it is not only from the top down, but today the employees have got to start working and being a part of the company instead of waiting for the paycheck to go home. And that's what Steve Jobs was able to do with the company. They couldn't wait to come in to go to work and perform because they were all working as a team.
They working toward this common goal or mission that they share together.
Yes, and if there's not a buy-in by everybody, get rid of the one that doesn't buy in, because there will be a problem. Earlier, the quote from Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So it's just like you say, it's the teamwork. So it starts from the bottom up and the top down. And the sooner they can meet with the spirituality and the consciousness of doing business.
So June, how do you keep a conscious business and increase profits for the shareholders?
Just from the transparency itself. They will tell everybody about it. Now here, talk about the shareholders a little bit. Here's what the trend which was amazing when I started studying the shareholders. There are many more women doing investing today than what there was before. Women will get less on their money and go with a green company or a conscious company than they will go with a company that doesn't do business right.
I see.
They are shifting through it.
Oh, see. So the formula or the decision-making factor has changed. It's not like the old day where they look at the number anymore. They weight both the tangible and the intangible.
Yes.
Like, besides the dollar or the profit they earn, what contribution is this company or this investment is making for humanity?
Yes.
That's how people are thinking now.
Yeah, and are you abusing child labor? I mean, the woman will look at this first. Absolutely, she wants her investments to be sound.
So if a company is profitable, but yet they outsource to a country which may be slaving or taking advantage of the low-cost labor, versus another company which really take good care of their people, and if it's not too much of a difference in the margin or profit, they rather go with a company that's green or that take care of people.
Absolutely.
So they put people first rather than dollar first.
Absolutely. And that's doing the paradigm shift. Before, they would look at the capital in the company. What was it doing? All right, where do they think it's going? But that's not what's happening now. The company has got to have a consciousness. So that's part of the shift, which I think it's awesome for the shareholders. They want value for their dollars. They're not going to go through this again.
I can see that in the old days when my father did business, the number one thing is always take good care of the people. Then, even you don't tell them to work overtime, they are willing to work overtime.
Yes.
They're willing to put that extra effort in. I remember when I was a kid, I see a gentleman, very old, living with us. He has been 30 years with my father as an employee, and we take care of him like an uncle. I think maybe there is a trend going back to this kind of core value that people miss.
Yes.
Because we have been kind of commercialized for so long, and now the trend is, I think it used to be bigger the better and all that, but now maybe there's a trend of going back to maybe smaller is more beautiful.
It is, but let me tell you, that brought up a wonderful story when you said family. Mary Kay, she started her company in her kitchen. She started making products to sell herself. Then she saw that she could train other women. So she built this just like your father did. She built a family business. The business grew and grew and grew, and now they're going to go public. Somebody's going to take them public. So now the business goes public. She makes all of this money because the business has gone public. They do a shift and they start mistreating people, and the product is not as good. They start looking how much money is coming in and how much are we putting in our pocket and how many jets can we buy. Do you know what she did? She went out and had to raise capital to buy her company back. She had to pay them a profit to get them out so she could bring it back to just exactly what you said, the family core business. What is the spirit and the culture of your business? See, go back to Apple. It has a culture and it's a family. So you can take it with a small business, and that's what people are watching. They want to buy from them because they're helping each other.
Now, I know this is a concept for some people. It's easy to get for a small business who maybe are trying to pay their bills and all that. How do they accomplish both? How could they try to strive for revenue, profit, and yet at the same time maintain this?
Well, there's a lot of things that are happening there. For instance, maybe they've reached the edge where they need an employee, maybe a part-time person. There's a lot of people trying to get back into the job market right now. Or there's people that maybe a little bit disadvantaged in some way. They're willing to step forward to be trained.
You know,
so it's just marvelous.
I heard this thing. I don't know if Nick may have heard the same thing. It's right now a lot of small business owners, they hire employees who want to stay home with the mom, with the kids, and they take a little bit less. They're very highly qualified workers. They're willing to take a little bit less if you just give them a little bit flexibility. In terms of coming in a bit late or leaving a little bit early or take time off for a doctor or whatever. You could pay them a little less, but give them what they want, the flexibility, so they can take care of their family. And so then you kind of control the cost of the company and you retain quality employees.
Yes, because you understand what's happening in their life. It again is going back to that. I have just such an employee. She's a single mother. And she can't always be there from 9 to 5. She has to take care of Jamie. So she also has a computer at home. She still puts in and gets done what needs to be done. So it's understanding and giving value and honoring the people and who they are instead of another employee sitting over here, you know, output.
Yeah, I can see with the shift in the consciousness a little bit that in terms of making the decision, because when you change the way you think, you care for the people as important as the profit. I'm not saying profit's not important because business needs to sustain. But if you can balance the two, you could retain better employee, you can get better customer because they value your company for the kind of service that you give to people. And then overall, you can transform the company in a different way. So it doesn't have to be an old business school model or the old way. I shouldn't say it's old, more like monetary driven only. But it's more balanced between the two.
Yes, and you just opened that up, Huesan. This is a brand new book. It's called Care. And Charles Labasco works for Citicorp. Now what he did is he realized it needed to start at the bottom. Just exactly what you're talking about, the individuals. He had to get the individuals motivated, the employees that were under him, to be conscious about the work that they were doing. So the opposite, this is care, which is the courage to take action relevant to everyone. So if you're in a company, your individual concept needs to come out. Are you going to have the courage to take that action that's relevant to everyone? This is an awesome book. It just came off the press. And by doing this, and it's patterned after our founding fathers, Sam Adams, George Washington, Patrick Henry, Jefferson, back to their core values, and he has put it now into this concept of making a shift to conscious business through every single individual in the company. So it's back again to the individual. And if they needed to work from home, They now are able to do that when they couldn't do that before. So it's consciously looking at that person as a person, not as a bottom dollar in somebody's pocket.
So I think we, in the next so many years, we will see quite a lot of things happening. Like you know, in commercial real estate, there may be a wave of foreclosure coming. Whatever happens, it will either directly or indirectly affect the business, right? So I think Nick always like to bring this to, well, how do we take all these consciousness thing and look at what a business can do in this 3 to 5 years, or even right now, what can they do so they can be more, they can, first of all, more than stay alive, grow the business. And I think from our conversation before, you have mentioned that don't think that your competitor won't help you. And I thought, wow, that's a good concept. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yes, because that's exactly what happened when Apple was going down and they didn't think there was any way to save it. Bill Gates came forward and put $150 million into Apple. He really never thought they would catch up to him.
So Microsoft, Bill Gates actually put money in Apple?
Put $150 million into Apple.
Why does he want to do that, or what was going on behind?
He honored the spirit of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had come back into the company, and he knew and knows what a brilliant person he is and how consciously he's doing business.
Okay.
So if you have your business and somebody sees the consciousness of your business, they may affiliate with you, or they may want to assist you. Usually there's a little different niche. Even the products were a little different coming out with Microsoft and Apple, you know, and what they've gone for. So somebody will come along and say, Huesan, I believe in you. They may be in the same business.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I think that's kind of like the reason why Nick and I want to do the paradigm shift. We see a lot of problem out there, and to us, we are both professionals. We can only see so many people a day. In order to bring the solution to a lot more people so they get the solutions, we decided to do this program because then more people will benefit. And that's the service, and that kind of, how should I say, if you have the heart, I would say besides thinking from the brain, it's time people need to think from the heart to see how can you make a difference other than just making a profit. Because when you make more contribution to the community, naturally you're going to attract more people to the business who want to, they call it reciprocal.
Yes.
Laws of
reciprocity.
Right. Kind of like that. Yeah. So I think this paradigm shift that when your company is going through changes, if you stay put, have your good value, being a good person, and try to still provide a service and everything, then naturally you will get help from the people around you.
Yes. And you're talking about the brain and the heart. I want to go back to that because it's really true. What goes on in the head is chatter. That's where the lies and all of that starts. That's where either your business is right, your mind is right, or it's way off. So therefore, the chatter goes on in the head. If you want the truth, you go to the emotions. Somebody can say words that they don't really mean. If they come from the emotions of the being, it is the truth.
You know, actually, from all the sales training that I have been through, and also observing the expert in the industry, is actually the emotion that generate the sales, not the data or the fact sheet or the feature of the product. Is that emotion, that connection, that relationship. People understand what a good company it is. They have confidence, they have faith in the product and services.
Absolutely. Just like we discussed, a financial advisor. You may advise one way, but when you can connect to what that person wants with their emotions, now then you've got a wonderful situation. It's just like Helen Keller. Where would she have been without Anne?
I see.
All right? So you look to these people, and they look to you to fulfill the emotional need, which is who and what they are. And that's what they're going to remember. That's what's going to change their life. And say, go see Huesan, go see Nick.
You know, I wanted to kind of do a little break into the conversation, and for the viewers, bring more on you, June. Could you tell the viewers more about yourself? Because when you shared it with us, I was very excited and impressed with all the stuff that you do, but I don't think we brought it up right now as of this moment to the show. So I know that you're very active out there and that you coach employees in corporations and that you write stuff and so on. Can you tell us more about it, please?
You know, sort of
That
what
way people
happens,
will understand
Nick,
better, yeah.
what happens in my life, it happens. See, if people are truly open to opportunity, it comes in. So almost my entire life going into business, there were happenings that took place. When I started here in California, I came from Arkansas with a friend and my sister, and we ran out of money quickly. We couldn't get back home. So I had been a legal secretary in Memphis, so I just put a legal ad in, and the fellow that answered it had a real estate business. Now, mind you, he was determined to pass the bar. He studied law. He was 80 years old when I started working with him.
Wow.
So, back to consciousness. He had 2 sons. One had a brain tumor, and the other one told his dad, either you get out of this business or I'm going to go set up my own business. Well, his father didn't want to quit work, so he paid the son. That's a long time ago, back in the late 50s, early 60s, he paid the son $3,000 to get him out of this big business. I'm the new person in the office. He takes me out to lunch and he's selling me this business with no money down, and all I said was just cried, I don't want any business. How am I going to get $3,000? Nobody knew I didn't have a license or anything. So he talked me into doing it. I mean, if I'd had my own way, I wouldn't have been. But what I'm saying to you is truly, if the consciousness is there, so from that, then I started 5 offices because you had to do this and this, you had an executive, I relocated companies. So it's what the people needed. And then I had no intentions of going into a training company.
It just happened.
I had a very good friend who was on the board for National Speakers Association, and she wanted me to go one Saturday to the meeting, and because I really enjoyed being with her, I did. So she's in the meeting early. And now what am I going to do? The speaker was setting up, so I said to him, well, what can I do to help you? So he has maybe 3 products, and I'm setting up the table at the back of the room. Well, this is fine with me because I love selling. I just love selling. The featured speaker was Paul Karasik, who wrote the book, How to Make It Big in the Seminar Business. He had never trained anybody to be a seminar leader, but he was only speaking about it. So we were put out of that room, out on a patio. So by now, I'm having to pack up before it starts, take the books out, and 1 tape, and it was tapes, and I'm setting up outside. But now I take ownership of my position because I'm going to sell all this stuff that's in these boxes. No intentions. So the company was started. I was there from the first session of the training, there from the time it began at the back of the room. I was still doing real estate and doing that, but every time I could go to sell those products, I wanted to be in the back of the room. So then what happened, he and his partner got into problems and they put the business on the market. They were big companies were coming in and buying it. I said, oh, they can't do that because then we would lose this and this and this. So I just turned around and raised money and bought the business. And I was not going to go to the front of the room training. So this goes back to be aware of your opportunities. Because what happened then was Sylvia and Jim Robbins was Tony Robbins' dad, decided they'd hire somebody out of Tony Robbins' camp to do the seminars. So here he comes. Well, Sylvia was ready to fire him in Los Angeles. She fired him in Chicago because it was all about him. Teaching people something is nothing about you. Doing business is nothing about you except your consciousness. So 30 days we were coming into Washington, D.C. Who do you think had to come to the front of the room? And I didn't want to do that. I don't even remember signing up for it. So you see, people lose out on what is there, and there are so many opportunities because they're not involved in what's going on, and I get involved. I'm really involved in seeing you make the show work.
Yeah, and going back to that, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, okay, well, what's new? You're talking about how it was at some point of time. And I'm thinking, well, that's maybe what's going to be 2 or 3 years from now. Because we're looking at cycles and so on, the thinking out of the box or the paradigm shift just might be switching into what already was.
Yes.
So why don't we just reflect and see how do we do things? I did notice, if you don't mind me just doing a plug in here, business owners, restaurants for example, when they got into the business during the good times, all they needed to do is open doors and people would walk in. Now those business owners are suffering and closing their restaurants because they don't know how to do anything else but open the door. While new people are buying those restaurants or waiting for them to close to release a restaurant with no key money, with catering ideas, marketing ideas, party ideas, whatever the ideas are, because that's the way to do and business in this market. So it's a cycle again.
Yes.
So when you said you just went out, gathered some money and bought the business, that's the way how people should think.
Yes.
Go and get money. Now most of the viewers are thinking, yeah, easily said than done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
But you know, Nick, if you're passionate enough about it, people believe you. And I was passionate enough because I knew it was good and I knew it needed to stay. I had no problem. If you don't believe in your business, you shouldn't be doing it. So, I mean, I say, you know, I don't remember signing up for it because I get involved with making things like writing the consciousness training right now. I'm totally involved and dedicated. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's like a mission for me.
Right.
So when you get involved and you know
The doors open up.
and it is the right way to do business, the money will be there. You have to believe it, but you have to be operating, just like you said, take the restaurant's going to close. I'm going to tell you something today. If they made a kid-friendly restaurant with good food, the right calories. I met this one gentleman and his daughter has started cooking at her home. She had to get it cleared, and she's making what tastes exactly like macaroni and cheese out of vegetables for kids and is selling it now in the school system.
That's true.
Well,
So that's thinking outside the box.
but did you read about that guy from TV Food Network show that actually started a show in the LA school systems,
Yeah.
and it was about health and nutrition, and they found a little bloop in his contract so they can fire him from the show because he was messing up the fast food concept,
Well, probably
which is kicking back more to the system than
probably the bottom of it is the sponsors were complaining.
yes.
So had the sponsors not complained and been happy with what he were doing, they weren't supporting the good of the program.
Right.
So therefore, it was the sponsors that they made him start looking for the contract. So they're not thinking consciously about our children.
Yes.
So until everybody comes to this, the ones are going to fall by the wayside. That's not going to stop him. He'll start another show and he'll have sponsors with people that want to see that happen.
Right.
And he'll have all the money he wants.
I just mentioned
give
his
up.
idea. I
Oh.
read it. I said, "Wow,
Yeah.
kids! And the kids are learning in school how to eat, but they don't have
Absolutely.
that choice at the cafeteria."
No, because they're buying from McDonald's, they're buying from Taco Bell, believe it or not, and bringing it in.
Yeah.
And now the mothers that want to make a difference, they're starting these cottage businesses.
I think even McDonald's become more conscious.
Oh,
They're eating salad
absolutely.
now.
They have to.
Yeah.
In order for them to do the shifting, see, here's exactly what you're saying. They're now shifting into consciousness. Before they didn't care whether the hamburger was still the same, only like brick a year from now, because this is what they're testing. They know the trends. So they have shifted into mega trends, 2010, with conscious capitalism. They are now making their profit by consciously serving choices that you can walk in there and get good food.
Could you talk a little bit about conscious capitalism? What exactly does that mean?
That means exactly what we were talking about in McDonald's. You just opened it wide. Consciously, in order for them to stay in business and make their money, which is the capitalism, conscious capitalism, they must shift.
I see.
So the rise is for conscious capitalism. So McDonald's made the shift. Where somebody else
not just
may
McDonald's,
not.
I think
So their business will grow.
House Junior's having salad, and then lots of other fast food restaurants now are shifting.
So you see how it's rising to the consciousness of the people and the consciousness of the food and what it is they serve. And if they're going to stay in business, they got to do it.
I think because people are kind of evolving and changing, so the business kind of have to evolve and change with the people as well.
You're absolutely right, and it's the people that demand it. They would have never made the shift if the people hadn't said, I'm not coming in here anymore because I want my child to have good food. And of course the child is seeing all the ads and they're driving their parents to take me to McDonald's, so McDonald's had to listen because some of the people were leaving. Very quickly they shifted into consciousness.
Yeah, McDonald's, they are a large company. How could small business capture these trends and help use that to improve their business?
Well, you spoke earlier about the foreclosure and our problem in the housing market. There's got to be some shifting there. Where are all those people? I know there was overbuilt, and California is one of the 20 in the top 20 of the worst. Stockton is the worst of all, because they had no consciousness when they were they had no consciousness when they were doing all the building. The money was flowing through and everybody was making money. The end user, none of that was taken. They were giving them loans that they knew in 2 years they couldn't afford, but they pocketed and walked away. So the collapse of the market. Today, if you could then work together, go back in, lease those properties that are sitting there vacant on a land contract with an opportunity to buy at a reasonable price, because they're going down. It is unbelievable. So just looking at it from that side of it, and looking just what Nick said about the businesses. They're going out. What can you do to help them restructure to stay in? And how can you match up a buyer, and instead of losing the business, the buyer might go in as a partner. They may have the knowledge, and
that's
they
what
need to raise
that's
the
happening
money.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. As a matter of fact, 2 recent deals that I had, the buyer hired the seller back into the business as a manager because the seller just had enough.
Yes.
But they needed a job.
Yeah. But the seller might leave all of the money in and still, go in once a week.
And there's creative financing there, definitely,
Absolutely. And there will be, because now with the all of the loan companies and that falling and foreclosures and empty houses, now we get creative. You don't find...
when you mentioned the concept of kid-friendly restaurant and so on, I just thought, like, wow, it would be just awesome to create a list of businesses that have a market today. Yeah, there must be a list. I didn't browse that. I have to check that as soon as I get to the office, but a list of businesses that are needed today.
Yes, and it will be driven by what the public wants. Today, because of the internet and honesty, they want, and the people are speaking up on what they want. They want the things for their children.
I think they demand it.
Yes, and isn't it wonderful? Now the business person that's just pocketing all that money and not even paying the shareholders has got to listen to the public. And they used to listen to the public. And we went in the trend where they don't care what you want, this is what you're getting. And the product might not be any good, so you just throw it away and go buy another one. That's not what's happening today. We're demanding. In fact, I read a story around Dell, and the person that had bought the computer was having trouble with it. So they would send it back for repair. Well, that person was without a computer, so they sent it back about twice without repair. They realized it would have been more reasonable to send out a new computer. The money they were wasting on the shipping, and they weren't serving the customer, and the customer was telling them, look, I don't have a computer. So what they did, they started, ship me that back and I will ship you a new computer.
So that's good. We were just planning of buying one but 2 friends had that experience. 2 friends of mine had that experience, that they got a computer that didn't work, sent it out. Well, customer service, 20 days, we'll get it back to you. 20 days without a computer today. Hello?
Right. And how many more repairs, because they're not built to last. So send them a new one. And when the company looks at it, it's costing them less money to send out a new product than to ship it, repair it, ship it. It got to go through many different departments. So you're right.
So within the changes that we're looking at paradigm shift of the changing of the business market, globalization and all that, where's the human factor come in, the employee?
Oh, that's again
you're
back
expert
here. I just love this because I also, I trained this gentleman. This is what makes me so happy. And see, he looked around as to what was happening with the employee. When the employee steps forward now through training of the care, it's a certification in the companies now to use this process. So they're proud of what they do. In the past, they'd just come in and maybe punch the time clock in and be on the internet, taking care of personal business or doing what they pleased without overseeing it. They did not have loyalty to the company. But remember, the company had no loyalty to them. There were no more retirements. You were talking about it earlier.
Right.
It's all gone. So until they come back and meet in the middle to honor the employee, and the employee gives the loyalty to them, it's got to come together, or it ain't gonna work. And the company's gonna lose. And the employee will lose.
I think it's more about creating a win-win-win
Yes.
environment now.
Yeah, and it's spiritual, it's cultural,
Yeah.
social responsibility.
I think one of the reasons why some companies fail is the win-lose mentality.
Yeah,
So if you change it to a win-win, then nonobody lose.
That's
It won't
exactly
sustainable. Uh-huh.
and it's got to be for the good of everybody and do no
No
harm.
That's right.
That is what the meaning of the word consciousness is. If you can consciously live your life, consciously do your business with everyone, you will do no harm.
Let me do a punchline here. For those people that just joined us,
All right.
you're watching The Paradigm Shift at KGM TV. And with us today is June Davidson, and we're talking about conscious
Business. Conscious business in-
capitalism, or the change of the way we do business.
I think conscious to me, after we've been talking for a while, it's people come first, rather than money comes
absolutely.
first.
Absolutely.
Because business has to profit, so this people aspect may be neglected. They focus more on the cheap labor and all that, and not taking care of the people.
That's right.
So if we go back to the core of just taking care of people, taking care of customer, and all that, there will be a way to find a niche to not just survive but thrive.
Thrive, you will thrive because
Yeah.
it is a people business. You don't do business with the company, you seek somebody in that company that's going to give you service that you know. You walk in a bank. We used to know the managers, they never shifted them from one place to another. Now, that's another area I'm getting ready to stand on my box because the banks are now charging fees. I had 2 people call me, and they're switching from the banks to the credit unions because the banks are charging them process fees.
Yes.
You'll get your statement, and it may be $12 or $10. They are not being transparent when the accounts are open, or they're just sending these fees out without telling you. So the shifting is the banks better straighten up their act. Business is leaving, going to the credit unions.
And I'm watching that very carefully. The bank, this new trend that banks are setting up, we're going to see where that's going to evolve, but people will have enough at some point of time. We're running out of time, so what I would like to do is ask you, how would you put this concept of a new way of thinking and handling the future and these trends in a local perspective, like Monrovia? The small businesses, the local businesses, the large businesses that will move in and out of the area. How do you see it evolving from now on, and how do you position yourself to make the best out of it?
I think it's going to happen because of the people again. The small business can contract. For instance, is Joe's in Monrovia? I'm not sure it is. Is it in Monrovia? Duarte. Well, it's pretty close, isn't it? There's a group of the people that meet there. There's one fellow that does specialty items. He can just as easy go into big business and contract as he can for little business. He has the ability to do this because of the service. It doesn't matter. You may have one product, but with the expansion today and being able to sell it to many, being able to get on the internet and research it and offer it there, small business is going to be able to maintain their size through the operation that they can have and look the same as a big business. Because that your website, the shipping of the products. You will have a fulfillment house. You don't have to be bothered with that. You're creating more small businesses, and it will serve public. It will serve the corporation. So I think the small business is going to really flourish, and you'll see them start to affiliate. Take the specialty product. I'll take you in. You want to sell the franchise for this company? I already know somebody in the company. So they're helping each other.
And that is
it's
a trend that I
wonderful.
notice around where instead of working under the same roof, people are collaborating within the same
Yes.
small companies. And that's a trend. So I do believe that we are at the end of the
Well,
show,
we can't be.
time-wise.
We're not ready to
Yeah,
quit.
so we'll have to do another one
Well,
because an hour was not enough.
should I summarize a few key
Yes,
points
please
that
do.
June talked
Absolutely.
about? Okay. What's a conscious business? A conscious business is to do no harm, to think win-win, and to think people first, or actually think in parallel, the people and profit, not just the profit. Right. I think the key point is to bring in the human aspect into it, because if two businesses is competing side by side, and if a consumer has to choose, the one who connect with the consumer more, that care more, and are more conscious about what their needs are and everything, will end up be the business that people choose to do business with.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nick.
June, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to another segment in which we'll focus on a niche and just eat that niche apart.
Right, yeah.
I will
Do your
do
commentary
the commentary.
with your crystal ball.
Yes.
Yes, but first I want to thank you for having me. I have enjoyed myself tremendously,
Yeah,
and I
thank-
just appreciated so much being here.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
June.
So, for the crystal ball, we have the show called The Crystal Ball Says, and it's just 1 minute in length.
Right.
The crystal ball says today that change is imminent, and we just need to make sure that as it occurs that we are with it, and that we understand where the change is going to the best of our abilities, and adjust ourselves so that we can cope with that change and prosper if we can. Now, those people that do not follow the change, they get caught by surprise and say like, oh my God, how did that happen? So the crystal ball says, follow the change, watch our show, and you'll prosper.